Namaste, namaste viewers, namaste Dr. Kausthub. I'm extremely happy. I'm humbled that you're here in my platform today called Maitreya. It has a tagline of own your story. And I think today it's going to be a very, very, very insightful conversation with you. Thank you for coming in, sir. Thank you for taking time out and making this interview possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Smita. I'm very happy to be here to share what I can. So I'm very also grateful that you are doing these kind of wonderful interviews with different people in this time.
Thank you, sir. Yes, for my viewers, talking about Dr. Kausthub Desikachar, a little bit introduction of this great man, this great personality. I really, get inspiration from sir. Well, Dr. Kausthub is the successor and current lineage holder of the classical Viniyoga tradition of T Krishnamacharya and TKV Desikachar. Sir is an acclaimed yoga teacher, yoga therapist, healer, and spiritual advisor. For more than 15 years, Sir has taught a multitude of students and teachers across the globe and has conducted numerous teacher and therapist training programs. He has authored and co-authored numerous books on yoga, such as The Heart of Asana, a biography on his grandfather, the great yoga acharya, T Krishnamacharya, called The Yoga of the Yogi. Dr. Kausthub is also an avid photographer, inspirational writer, and a poet. He's also the co-founder of Synergies in Healing, an online journal that focuses on bridging ancient wisdom and modern day science. It is, I think, 10% of what Dr. Kausthub has achieved. Yes, we have a lot to talk about, sir. Well, coming to the first question, Doctor, what is spirituality in its truest sense?
Well, the way spirituality is understood by the traditional people is in many different dimensions. At a very simple level, spirituality, in my view, is that we become the best version of ourselves. We connect with who we are. Many people talk about what is called self-realization
Yes.
and think concepts like that. So this is what is spirituality, because there's many layers to this concept of self-realization. So when you look at it in this way, you will see that, for instance, first and foremost, we need to explore who we are. Then we need to express who we are. These are two dimensions of this. So that is where, in our Vedic tradition, the way we look at it is we explore who we are means not, I come from Chennai, you come from Bangalore, those kind of things. But rather, more importantly, what is our dharma in our life?
Yes.
Because ultimately, the self, the Purusha has a dharma, and that is what we need to understand. Dharma is basically our primary purpose why we are in this world. So, in a way, spirituality is to find out what is our dharma, acquire the means and resources like knowledge and skill to fulfill that dharma in the best possible way, and let go of the consequences. Whether we succeed or fail, that is not really our business.
Yes.
So, and we can only be our dharma, we cannot be somebody else.
True.
So, like a cat cannot be like a monkey, and a monkey cannot be a giraffe. A mango cannot be a pineapple cannot be a cactus. Each one we have to accept what is our inherent swadharma, swabhava, swarupa, etc. And express it without comparing ourselves with others, whether we are doing same as what others are doing or whether we are doing better than what others are doing. Those kind of comparisons is not necessary, because our Swadharma, our Swabhava is very unique to each of us. And even if we are similar to others, it doesn't mean that we will be the same. Even if you take two mango trees of the same species, it's not possible that they give the same number of mangoes, that they grow in the same shape, in the same form. Essentially, the mango may be of a similar species, but it doesn't mean that they are giving. One year, maybe one tree gives more mangoes. The other year, maybe another tree gives more mangoes, etc.
Yes.
This is nature. And this is also the same for us. So even among the same mango tree, in the same year, each mango will not be the same shape, same size, etc., even if the species is the same.
Yes.
So that is why spirituality, in my view, is we always try to achieve what is the best possible version of ourselves, and not based on whether there is a successful consequence or an unsuccessful consequence. And we don't even bother what other people think or what other people do with us. A mango tree does not give mangoes because somebody is appreciating it.
Yes.
A mango tree does not stop giving mangoes because somebody is stealing it.
Yes.
It is just happy to be inherent in its inherent nature. And that is what is spirituality. That is what is called the self-realization, where we don't worry about what other people think of us, what other people judge of us. We need to be our authentic self.
Yes.
And I think that is the most important principle in yoga. That's why in yoga, Patanjali is saying that when you achieve yoga, tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. You are established in your own nature.
Yes.
My nature and your nature are very different. Your nature and maybe your friend's nature will be very different. So you must not try to be like your friend. I must not try to be like you. I must try to be who I am. You must try to be who you are. Your friend must be who she or he is.
Yes. Yes.
So this is what is called Swarupe Avasthanam. That is why the very concept that Patanjali is saying about yoga as a spiritual path is that we are authentic. We are not perfect.
Correct. Yes.
Seeking perfection is not spirituality. Living authentically, that is spirituality. Live who you are, what you are, and don't worry about what other people say or judge. And this is a very important principle that many modern people have forgotten today, because in the modern era, somehow we are being educated to seek perfection, have the perfect body weight, perfect body height, perfect nose, perfect eyes, etc., perfect education, perfect job, perfect house, perfect partner. I talk to so many people. They're always asking, I want the right partner. There is no right partner or wrong partner. There is
very
only a
well.
partner
Yes.
right now.
Correct.
I say to my students, don't seek for Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, just seek for Mrs. Right now or Mr. Right now, because that is all we can do.
Exactly.
Perfection is an illusion.
True.
So authenticity is living authentically is the most spiritual thing we can do. There are many layers of this that Patanjali and the Vedic tradition takes over, because at the highest level, the self realizes that it is only an instrument of the divine. That is also another level of self realization.
Yes.
But we need not go there at the starting point. At least we learn to recognize who we are, very simple way, through our dharma. We try to express it as best as we can.
Sure. Very, very well put across. It is with giving simple examples, yet so profound meaning to it, Dr. Kausthub. Well, coming to Viniyoga, what is the essence of Viniyoga? If you can give us an insight about what this whole process of yoga is about.
Viniyoga is probably one of the oldest tradition of yoga that is continuously existing, if not the oldest, but at least one of the oldest.
Okay.
And this, I mean, we always acknowledge our Acharya who propagated it first, in a contiguous lineage, we can trace it back to Nathamuni, who lived in the 800s. In a non-contiguous lineage, we are tracing it back to Nammalvar, who probably lived about 3000 to 3500 years ago.
Okay.
So one of the things about the unique features of Viniyoga is that Viniyoga is actually representing yoga from its classical roots, not from these modern illusory approaches. For example, many modern yoga is trying to align itself with Western medicine or physiotherapy, talking about muscles, bones, and this and that.
Yes.
But in reality, that is basically flawed because yoga, when it was created 2500, 3000 years ago, modern medicine did not even exist.
Yes.
So it is blind to follow or try to understand yoga through modern medicine because the reverse they will not allow.
Correct.
Right? For example, if you try to understand medicine through the classical methods like yoga or Ayurveda, they will not allow.
True.
If you go to a doctor and the doctor tells you you need a surgery because your kundalini is turning the wrong way, the patient will not take the doctor seriously and the medical profession will chuck the doctor out of their system.
Yes, true.
In the same manner, yoga must not be understood through modern medicine because that has no place in yoga. That's why I humbly request all the modern medical doctors, physiotherapists, who are trying to understand through yoga, through their own science, to just leave the yoga tradition to traditional way of understanding and not interfere and try to cause what I call a cultural genocide. They are killing the traditional system, and that is what they are doing. And we have to call it for what it is. This is cultural, not just cultural appropriation. That is a very minor term. Basically, what they're doing is a cultural genocide. And I hope that Indians will realize this and stand up to these people and not just follow blindly. And it's unfortunate that there are many yoga teachers, very well-known yoga teachers, who are trying to take this approach, which only shows that they are lacking the traditional knowledge of yoga.
Correct.
We should not follow such people because it is like following the blind. So that's one of the unique features of Viniyoga is we do not talk even one moment about musculoskeletal, blah, blah, this and that. We take it from the traditional point of view.
Okay.
Using traditional references, traditional texts, and traditional understanding like prana, nadis, the chakras, which are actually part of the yoga system.
Yes.
Modern medicine does not understand. Modern medicine does not understand what is prana. You cannot talk about energy in medicine. The doctor cannot tell you you have bad energy. They will also be chucked out. So this is why one of the first thing is we represent the classical tradition of yoga according to how yoga was conceived by the sages of the past. The second very important part of this tradition is that it is teaching everybody mostly one-to-one. We don't have group classes except for training programs, educational programs. Almost all of our yoga teaching is one-to-one, where we are insisting that people have a personal practice that is unique to them, be it for their self-development purpose or for their therapeutic purpose. And this is one of the reasons why our tradition is the most suited for yoga as a therapy, because yoga therapy cannot be standardized nor taught in groups because each one will require different approaches. Even the same problem, like two people can have depression and obesity, for example, the approach has to be different because maybe one person has depression as the cause and obesity as a consequence.
Correct.
The other person has obesity as the cause, depression as the consequence.
Yes, very,
even
very
the
true.
diagnosis is the same. We cannot approach the therapy in the same way. That's why our very important principle is that we teach yoga individually, in an individualized manner, which means not only that we are teaching a practice different from different students, but even for the same student at different times. What you would need before you are pregnant is very different from what you need during pregnancy.
Yes.
And very different post-pregnancy.
Very
so even
true.
the same individual is not going to be given the same practice at different context or stages of their life.
Yes.
And even during the pregnancy, the body behaves very differently in the different stages of pregnancy. So what you may need in the first trimester
is different, yes.
Completely different from what is needed in the second trimester compared to what is needed in the third trimester, etc. And how your body will react if it's your first child is very different from how it will react if it's your second child,
yes,
or if it's your third child, etc. So that's why we always follow Patanjali's principle that yoga must be individualized based on different parameters like age of a person, stage of life, capacity of a person, their energetic level, their emotional, psychological state,
yes,
what circumstance they are going through in their life, etc. What kind of diet they are eating, what is their constitution, what illnesses they carry. So take into consideration many of these parameters and teach yoga one-to-one. This is how yoga was taught traditionally. And Patanjali talks about this as the principle of Viniyoga. Tasya bhumisha Viniyogaha.
Okay, yes. That's very, very profound.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Please continue.
When you talk about individualization, this is where one of the primary things that we are doing is what we call variations and modifications. What one person's body will allow need not be possible in another person's case.
Yes.
So even the asana, we have to modify. We give variations and modification based on what is needed.
Yes.
Pranayama, we do the same. So in every tool of yoga, we are using variations and modifications so that it is suited to the individual. Therefore, we focus more on function rather than form. Yes. Because the function needs to be achieved rather than the form. Yes. And the next unique thing about Viniyoga is we are using the entire range of yoga tools. We are not only focused on asana practices. So we use asana, we use pranayama, we use mantra, we use bhavana, which is visualization, we use mudras, we use bandhas, we use dhyanam, we use nyasa, we suggest dietary changes, we suggest lifestyle changes, because all of these are the part of yoga. Therefore, in one word, we can say that uniqueness also is the third uniqueness is that we are a holistic tradition because we are using the holistic tools of yoga rather than just one set of like asana, which is the most common thing that many yoga schools and studios do.
Yes.
Some schools are also teaching pranayama and maybe some meditation, but we are talking about all of this.
Yes.
So this is the third uniqueness that we have. And as I said, we definitely, our main focus is also on yoga as a therapy because this is our specialty. Another thing that is very unique to our tradition is what we call mentoring or a teacher-student relationship. Say every student we are teaching, we insist that they have a close student-teacher relationship rather than one guru and 500,000 students like who are packed in the stadium where there is no personal connection. So we are always insisting on what we call mentoring or guidance and a one-to-one situation. That's why we are not really a quantity-focused tradition. We are more like the quality-focused tradition because we want to have that connection with our students because it is through the connection that there is transformation.
Yes, yes, that's very, very well said,
Patanjali
Dr.
says,
Kausthub. Yes.
yeah, Patanjali says this, Nirmana Chittani Asmita Matra. The transformation can only happen when there is a close connection between teacher and the student, teacher and the talk. So these are in general some of the common uniqueness about the Viniyoga tradition.
Yes, thank you for this, Dr. Kausthub. Well, coming to today's situation, we all know because of the pandemic, it's been so difficult for everybody in today's daily walk of life, in all the professions for that matter. Well, coming to yoga and wellness community, well, we have so many people coming in, pitching in right now as to do this exercise, do that exercise, don't fear, don't panic. A lot of different kind of breathing exercise that's been put out on social media. Well, as an authentic yoga community, I mean, when you head this kind of a platform, as a leader, what advice would you give to all of us in the community to help today's situation get a little better for the world?
See, this is a very challenging situation because there is a lot of misinformation that is present on the internet or on the Facebook and Instagram and all these kind of platforms.
Yes.
Because now these platforms have created a situation where everybody and anybody can just post whatever they want.
Yes.
And just because something is popular, it starts to rank higher when people are searching.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that is the problem. And the second problem is that there is a great divide in the yoga community because many yoga traditions, they don't really share the same kind of approaches. Each one wants to prove to themselves, prove that they are better.
Different,
and that's why they are
unique.
also moving away from yoga because they're trying to think that they are better if they associate themselves with the medical community. Somebody will say, okay, I'm better because I associated with this university, blah, blah, blah.
True.
Which are basically not really accurate. So that's why my thing is we should go back to the traditional yoga and find resources from traditional sources. When I say that, I mean traditions are those that have at least sustained for a few 100 years, not just for 10 years or 20 years. That's not a tradition. Tradition is something that has sustained for hundreds of years. So that's why we need to find such traditional schools and find traditional knowledge, and there is a lot. And unfortunately, the traditional schools are usually hidden because they are quality focused, not quantity focused.
Exactly.
And they are actually not publicity focused. They are actually not really too much involved in the public media as well. So these are all the challenges we have. So to make it easy, my simple suggestion is that we need to take the concept of this illness like this pandemic, which is a illness that affects the breathing mechanism very much. So any form of practice that strengthens the breathing, vitalizes the breath, that is something that we can consider. And we go back to Patanjali, Dirgha and Sukshma. Try to make the breath long and smooth. So that's the basic function we need to achieve. We don't, it doesn't matter what form is being taken. The function is important. So whatever, whether you're doing asanas, whether you're doing pranayama, whether you're doing mantra or meditation, if at the end of it, it is making the breath more longer, more smoother, then you can obviously assume that your breathing mechanism is getting better. And that is where we need to focus.
Sure.
On another side, it's also very important that as yoga teachers, we are also having a voice to inspire our students to do what is the right thing. So, for example, it is definitely helpful if we can communicate to our students that we have been vaccinated. I've been vaccinated with both the doses, and I've shared it with my students, and that has inspired them also to take the necessary protection. Because even though I say that we should not necessarily look at yoga through the medical eyes, it doesn't mean that medical side is not useful. True. It has its place. It has its place, but it should not interfere in yoga. It should function within the scope of medical practice, and we embrace that. We embrace it. I am not against medicine. I have taken both my vaccination, and it has inspired many of my students to have confidence in the vaccination that can be a source of protection. We can also, because we have influence over our students and well-wishers, we can also create projects that raise awareness to what are the challenges. I've created a project recently to raise money to fund a local government hospital to deliver them protective equipment and oxygen concentrators so that patients and the health practitioners can actually benefit. And when I raised this, I opened the campaign only yesterday, and it's not even 24 hours because I only raised it in the afternoon yesterday. And we have received such a phenomenal response from around the world that we have so far raised almost $6,000 from around the world. That's commendable. So we are going to wait till Friday, and then we are going to get all the equipment that we can from that to help the hospital, which receives about 2,500, which deals with 2,500 patients a day, which is a hell of a lot of students, patients in the hospital. It's a government hospital. So we can use our platform to raise awareness and to help people from around the world come together to direct resources where it's needed. So I would say that these are three different ways through which we can actually do it as well.
Yes. Thank you for that insight, Dr. Kausthub. Well, this is an important question. Well, can you give us 3 golden rules to follow, well, in order to live a meaningful or a purposeful life?
It's very, very difficult because
like maybe the rules you followed, maybe the rules you followed.
Yeah, I know. But I have to say that I'm not yet a great guru, or I'm not yet achieved enlightenment, but I am hope that one day I will. What rules I follow, or and therefore I advise students, because I will never tell a student to do something that I don't do myself.
Correct.
Or I don't believe in myself. So first and foremost, my first rule is the rule of authenticity. That is what I talked to you a little bit earlier. Try to be yourself. Try to be yourself. Try to fulfill your own dharma, your own purpose. Don't do what is somebody else's job.
Correct. Yes.
So this is the first rule. And when we are talking about authenticity, I want to share one more thing. Don't judge yourself for being imperfect.
Yes, thank you for telling that. I was about to ask you the next question. I mean, should we be harsh on ourselves as to?
I've learned this very, very young, thankfully, because I've been a teacher since I've been 13 years of age. And there have been many, many people, not only students of mine, but also some of my other students of my father and other students of other people of the yoga community always projected that yoga's teachers must be perfect, expected perfection of me as well.
So
but
true.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I disappointed all of them, because I'm not living my life for them. I'm living my life for me and the dharma that I have to fulfill.
Yes.
So authenticity is the first thing. Second thing I always encourage the people is do your best. Abhyasa is very important. Abhyasa is not just practice on the mat, but it's also in your life. Do your best, because if you allow your mind to get distracted, then you will suffer. So when you're doing your best, you are learning to become a better teacher all the time. You are curious to know what else is there. You are always improving yourself. That by doing your best, you will not be so distracted. So that's the second rule I always say: do your best. And the third rule is vairagya, abhyasa and vairagya, which is letting go. And letting go is connected with the divine. In my personal case, for example, I always let go the consequences of action to the divine. See, I never expected that there will be such a response to my project in 24 hours. I never expected, but that's a divine will. It's not my doing. It's not my doing. I only put out that project and I've received such an enormous thing. That is the divine. So, and I don't want to take the credit as well for that, because it's not my doing. It's all the people who have helped that are doing. So we need to have the concept of letting go. So I always feel that these three are the rules: be authentic, do your best. And when we say do your best, it also includes the concept of faith. Have faith in what you are doing, because if you don't have faith, you will not do your best.
Correct.
Shraddha is the word used by Patanjali. The last one is vairagyam, a detachment from consequences, whether you succeed or not. Because you cannot succeed always. There will be battles you will win, there will be battles you will lose. Think about cricket. I am a cricket fan. You can't win. India cannot win every game. And if it wins every game, it will be boring.
True.
So some games it has to win, some games it has to lose. That is life. So you cannot be attached to the consequence. You have to let go and move on. This is very important. So this, I would say, are the three main things.
Thank you for this, Dr. Kausthub. Well, I've seen a lot of people. I've spoken to a lot of people in yoga community and outside. Well, I think people who are really knowledgeable, who are at your level of understanding life, I mean, it's very, very rare, and also keeping it authentic. I think you've been living that example for all of us. So thank you for this three golden rules, which really are make us kind of get clarity in our life, and giving us the right path. Well, coming to your inspirations, Dr. Kausthub, you've achieved a lot. I mean to say, you've achieved considerably a significant position and a significant important factor being in the yoga community itself. Well, who is your inspiration and who do you draw that motivation from?
My most inspiring person that I have had in my life is actually my father, who is also my teacher. And he's the biggest source of my inspiration. And I've been very privileged to have many other wonderful people I have met also, who have been a source of great inspiration as well. But my main inspiration is my father. And some of the other people who are also inspiring me a lot is actually also my mother, because my mother has been a rock solid support for my father, and then she has come into her own power, which is also wonderful to see and get inspired by her, and her dedication to the teaching Her dedication to her plans, her dedication to her dharma is a very great source of inspiration. She does not get so easily distracted from that. But also, I've seen many other people in my life, and I've been inspired by them. And I've seen many students of mine who have been a great source of inspiration for me, because sometimes I see that their transformation following the yoga path that I've taught them, and what transformation they've achieved is so powerful. And sometimes that itself is an inspiration for me, because I see that they are taking this at such a deep level in their heart, this teaching, and that is changing them, and that further inspires me to become better, not only as a teacher but also as a person, because if I'm not a good example for them, then definitely so inspired. So I need to continuously work on myself. And that's why I'm always inspired by many of my students who have been a great source of inspiration for me. I'm so grateful for that.
Thank you for this inspiring talk, I mean to say. Yes, some people see the glass half full, some people see the glass half empty. What do you have to say about that? How do you perceive life?
Well, whether the glass is half full or whether the glass is half empty, what I feel is more important is, what do you do with what's in the glass? So obviously it's a metaphor for our life, right?
Yes.
We don't have all a fulfilled life. Our life is sometimes, there are some, how to say,
circumstances or situations where,
yeah, there are some challenges. I would say there are some failures that we have had. There are some things that we don't have yet. But at the same time, we have a lot of things. So rather than celebrating what we have or complaining about what we don't have, I'm often trying to reflect, what is it that we do with what we have? That's more important than whether it's half full or half empty. What do we do with what we have? And it's not easy, because I'm also a person who is looking at the glass half empty. Sometimes I'm a person who's looking at the glass half full. But there are moments as well where, when I'm in deep reflection, I start to think, okay, forget about the half empty, half full. Let's figure out what we can do with what we have. And it's only then that we actually feel much more
content,
meaningful. The life becomes a bit more meaningful.
Sure. Yes. How should a beginner start? I mean, should he follow a guru as such, or if he doesn't find a guru, can he do something, trying the YouTube techniques, or trying the techniques that's described on the social media?
As I told you earlier, I'm a traditionalist in certain aspects. In outlook of life, I'm quite progressive, but I don't believe that you can learn any yoga tools, whether it's meditation or even asana or pranayama, from a YouTube channel.
Correct.
We need to find a teacher or an instructor. If there is an instructor on the other side giving a class to you, then that's okay, because now we are doing many classes online.
Yeah.
But if it's a YouTube channel, then it's a bit difficult, because the teacher is not there to correct you of what you are doing right or what you are doing wrong. The teacher is not there to observe what reactions you are going to have when you do certain practices. The teacher is not there to hold you when certain emotional experiences happen. I don't mean physically hold you, but emotionally and energetically hold you, give you that space.
Sure.
So I would not recommend that kind of an approach of learning from recorded YouTube channels and things like that.
Maybe what about learning from the authentic sources, maybe books like Hatha Yoga Pradipika or Geranda Samhita, where there are meditation mentioned.
Even there, if you look at it, they always say you have to learn it through the guidance of the teacher, because a book is a fixed thing. A book may say, okay, stand straight and bend forward, or things like that. But what if your body is not allowing that instruction?
True.
See, none of the classical yoga traditions or even any other school as well, Vedic school as the books were not meant to be like manuals. They were only like a guidance.
Yes.
They were only like somehow like a directional book rather than a manual exactly of step 1, step 3, because the ancient people realized that that is not how it's going to work. That's why we always, even though we make our textbooks and things like that, we always highlight the importance of learning from a teacher or an instructor, because then the suitable practices can be taught. Otherwise, it can be dangerous and harmful to the people.
Well, Dr. Kausthub, this is the last question. Talking about Krishnamacharya, well, we all know how impactful the yoga techniques are and how great a personality he was. What was he as your grandfather?
Very protective. I've been very lucky that I had a very protective grandfather. Many times when my father would actually try to be harsh with me because I was behaving naughtily as my grandfather would come to my protection and say, hey, how can you say this when you yourself were doing all these things as a kid? So in a way, he was very, very protective. And I think I was very protected by both my grandfather and also my grandmother. Both of them were very, very protective. And that's one of the things that I miss, that they are not there. I lost my grandmother when I was only 9 years old. My grandfather, when I was 14, I just wished I had a little bit more time with him. Things would have been so much more wonderful. But I'm very grateful that I had this time, and all that I can remember is the most important thing is being very, very protective. And that is very important for young people.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kausthub. It was such a pleasure talking to you. It's really eye-opening aspects and also such insightful conversation. Also regarding your books, the 2 books you've authored and co-authored. Well, would you kind of give any advice or tips as to how to start writing, a journal, or start writing something, what's in your mind? How do we go about it?
How is that connected to my books? I don't understand. Can you just...
I mean to say, well, being in yoga and wellness or spirituality for that matter, we do get a lot of thoughts that's, contradictory sometimes in our mind as to what to do, what not to do, what to follow, what is right, what is authentic. Should I write it down?
Correct.
And who's going to, kind of appreciate my thoughts and other things like that about our own journey?
Yeah, I think that's very, very important. I always have a notebook. I have many notebooks because they keep running out. I always use pen and paper to write any ideas, any inspirations that come, any challenges that, any dreams that are of significance that come. I'm always writing it down with a pen and paper, because obviously we cannot remember everything all our life. So I use pen and paper, and when you write with pen and paper, it also registers in a different place than if you have an app where you are typing everything. So I try to use less of these apps to journal, and I use more the pen and the paper. And I think it's a remarkable thing because many times the books that I've written have come out of an inspiration from what I've written in pen and paper.
Yes.
So some ideas I will keep writing, and then suddenly I'll remember that, okay, I wrote about this in this notebook. I wrote about this in this notebook, and then I collect them together and I put it as one structure, and it eventually becomes either a book or a publication or an article that I write or things like that. For example, some years ago, I had written an article about what is called the future of yoga. And it was basically a collection of ideas that had come from different, what do you call, timelines. And I could only write the article when everything was actually in place. So it was a set of ideas that was documented at different times, which eventually became an article.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was written many years ago, I think almost like 6-7 years ago. And it's a very interesting and controversial article.
Yes. So when we write it, go back to read the same thing, it's a kind of, okay, did I write this? That kind of feeling at times.
It's a good place to know how far we have moved or how far we have not moved.
Yes, true. Well, Dr. Kausthub, it's been an amazing experience talking to you. I'm very, very humbled and privileged that you are in this platform today, Maitreya. Well, thank you so much for coming in today, making time for me, making time for my viewers. Thank you so much, Dr. Kausthub. Namaste.
Thank you, Smita. Nice to meet you, and thank you so much for the conversation.
Sure.
Namaste.
Namaste.